Hello students, how are you? Welcome to your assignment number 3 for Java language. Well, basically what we are going to do today is just create a student form. Basically this assignment is designed for you to understand how to create forms using NetBeans forms, JFrame forms. And in this way you will have a very rough idea, or not rough, actually very good idea, how to create forms like from scratch, and it will help you for the next step in the Java application. There is the connecting to a database. Alright, but first we need to understand how to create those forms and to get the information that is submitted by the user in a very good formatting according to whatever our needs are. Right now, before we start, as you may see, I opened my NetBeans already. However, I want to show you what the application is doing. So I have it open already here, and the application will look like this. It's just a simple student form that will ask you for the name, address, province, city, postal code, phone number, and email. As you may guess, all these forms or all these elements are text, not text area, text input from the J text input, right? And we also have two checkboxes that works independently from each other. However, we have also radio buttons here. As you may see, those work together. They belong to the same group. And whenever I click one thing or one radio button, if I select one radio button, this specific combo box is get the information dynamically. Okay, so let's say if I select computer science, I have programs or courses from the computer science program. But if I click business, I got the business information. Okay, so whenever if I select, let's say student council, and I hit display, as you may see, a student council member is a yes, and volunteer work is a no because I didn't select it. I unchecked that. And I can change any information over here. Let's say another information here, another name, and you see dynamically gets all the information that is in the form. So this is basically what the form will do. It's kind of simple, but it's gonna be a little bit long to do it. Anyway, so let's start over and we will see how exactly to perform this specific task. Okay, so I'm going to close this, and now since I have opened my NetBeans, I will start a new project. A new project, as always, we have to select Java in this case, right? And select Java application. Click next. Now make sure to save it in a place that you can access later. So in my case, I will put it in a folder that I have everything arranged. Okay, and yeah, I believe I will save it here in the assignment number 3. So remember not to create a main class. This has to be unchecked, otherwise you will have problems to start your project. Okay, as always. Okay, now we are going to call it a student form. Since it's a class, remember, since it will be created a class, I will call it with capital letters at the beginning. Okay, now I don't want to, you know what, I will leave it as it is. That's fine. Anyway, so the next step is just click finish and just check, always check if your project was created accordingly. So I'm going to the file explorer, and inside 305, which is the folder that I selected, inside assignment number 3, and then you may see the student's form has been created accordingly. It should be empty because I decided not to create a main class for this specific project. Okay, now let's continue. So the first step is always create a new J-frame form. It's not a J-panel form, it's a J-frame form. Okay, make sure you select the correct one, otherwise you will have problems to start your project. And basically the main difference is the J-panel form, it doesn't have any main method that Java can get to, and therefore you have to create that by yourself. However, using J-frame form is quite different because it's like everything will be done for you automatically. So let's go to select J-frame form, and as always I will put the same name. Since it's a class, remember everything in Java is a class, I have to start with the capital letter, and it's recommendable to use a package for your classes, so that is why you are having this warning over here. So I will put this as a student form. Okay, now you see the warning is out. It doesn't have to be called the same as your class. However, for the instruction, I will do it this way. Okay, now let's go to finish. Let's click finish, and then you will have something similar to this, or not. It should be exactly the same, right? And remember, the first thing we have to notice is we have 3 buttons over here. The first button, which is the one that is activated, is design view. The design view basically is all the your J-frame, an empty J-frame in this case, and that's where you're going to put all your inputs and all your elements that you need. Alright, now in source, everything will be created for you automatically, and you can recognize these guys over here, right? This is your static void main method. That's the first method that your Java will check as soon as you click the run button. Okay, now in general code, I strongly recommend to always have a collapse, because what you have here is everything is automatically done for you, and this is exactly all the Java code that you will need in order to add all the elements to the particular forms and to the particular panels that we will create today. You may see right now there is nothing much here. It's only a group layout, which is basically the layout that is used by default by the IDE, and we have the set horizontal group, which is another layout, right? Anyway, the idea of this is not paying attention to it, but it's basically to let you know that you have in the background, whenever you do something in your form, you will get this code done for you. As you may see, if I try to edit, I'm not able to edit anything, because this code cannot be changed directly by the user or the programmer, because the idea is to avoid errors. Okay, if you change even a little letter over here, you may find errors, including in your design section. Okay, so let's go back to the design section and let's start over with this. I will open a little bit. Okay, so remember the first lesson about forms. We will use panels for everything. Okay, so the first panel will be the tag panel. Okay, so remember we have properties and code, right? The properties are all the properties that this particular element has, and the code is, among other things, it will be the name that will be referenced to the code side of this specific element, okay, or this specific project. I'm sorry. Now let's go to call this tag panel, because that's where all my tags will be. So I'm going to hit enter, and I will put this panel accordingly to my up left corner. Now since I will have a panel just around here, okay, basically I think that's pretty much it. I will arrange it later, but right now let's go to leave it like this. And now I'm going to create another panel here. Okay, so as you may see, you have several margins automatically done for you, because as you may see, the IDE needs to refer this position with something. That is why it's giving you several options to put your panel in. Okay, so in this case, this panel will be where we are holding all the results. Okay, so I will call it code result panel. It's not necessary to name these guys, however I'm doing it just for ordering purposes. Okay, now I have my tag panel over here, I have another panel over here which is the result panel, and I will get another panel over here. Okay, right, and this panel will hold all my text input, text field, I'm sorry, all my text fields over here. Okay, so they should be aligned with the tags that we are going to put here. Okay, and the second last thing is create another panel. Okay, and in this panel, in this panel we will have the two checkbox. Okay, the checkbox that we checked earlier, and the last panel that we are going to create here, another panel. I will call this guy checkbox panel. Oh, sorry, I forgot to name this guy the text field. So I'm going to put it like a text input panel, and in here I will call it check box panel. I'm going to call it just box panel. And finally we are going to add another panel, which is basically, I'm going to put it exactly the room that is left in a space here, and here I will call it decision panel. Sorry, probably was the space that I used. Decision panel. Yeah. Now the only thing that is missing here is the button, so I'm going to shrink a little bit this area, and I'm going to add another panel here. Yeah, in order to avoid that, it's very complicated to put a single panel once you created the other ones, because as you may see, it's kind of difficult sometimes to move all the way around. And okay, so I will put a panel here. I think it will fit. Check. Yeah, it did. So I'm going to put it like this, covering the whole room that I have left. So checking everything is fine. Look at the order over here, and I will put here my action button. Right, so this panel I will call it display panel. Okay, again, it's not necessary to give them names, especially if you are in the test. you can name it like a J-panel 1, 2, 3, because we are not going to refer them using this IDE. But if you're using another IDE, it's quite important to give them names. So that is why always get used to it. Get used to give names to every single variable or element that you're putting in your forms. That makes your application to look better. Anyway, so let's go to create our labels now. So I'm going to put here a label, a J label. Again, in this particular case, that will be in this panel. You see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 panels in this section. Okay, so the J label should be in the first panel, where this, if you select this, it will be the tag panel. Now select the J label 1, and I will call it, I will leave it like J label 1, because we are not going to refer that label, right? As I told you, we are not going to use that label, but only for let the user know this box is specifically for putting some kind of information. Now let's go to the properties, and in properties I'm going to put here the first tag, which is the name. Okay, we will arrange them later, okay, don't worry about it. Now let's go to put another tag. What I do is always copy and paste the same tag that I used before if it's the same element, because it's easier, it's faster that way, right? And the only thing that we have to do here is put the whatever you want, is like address in this case. Okay, well, the same operation with the other tag. We'll do it very fast. So province, select the tag, copy it, this is a city, and what else? We got also the postal code. Phone number. And email, finally. So select the tag. As I told you, we will arrange a little bit later. Okay, so that will be your email. Awesome. Now in this panel, as I told you, that's where all your text fields will be. So let's go to get our first text field. Okay, and now this is where putting your names is important, because remember we are going to need to make a reference for those guys so we can get the information from it, right? So basically what I'm going to do is stretch this guy here in properties. I will clean everything up. Okay, now as you may see, is my text field is over there, so I forgot to put the name. So let's go to call this name input. Is important, guys. So if you're using the name, put the something that reference to the name, right? Otherwise you may be confused. So it's like in the calculator exercise. Let's say you have the key or a button that has a number 1. Well, the most basic or logic thing to do is actually call that button as a 1. Okay, button 1. But since in Java you cannot start names with numbers, you can use like a button 1 in order to avoid confusions. Okay, it's very, very, very important. So I'm going to move this guy until, well, actually it's not giving me the option, but I will move it around there. I think it's fine. So let's go to copy and paste the same thing, right, as always. Let me check one thing. If I move this guys, let me move these guys down. Okay, yep. And I don't know if we'll, yeah, actually, yeah, it's pretty much close to the, no, that's too low. I think it's still too low, right? So that's the part that I don't like. Try to, yeah, that's the one. It's very hard sometimes to arrange things, right? I mean to make it very appealing, you know what I mean. Now let's go to call this little guy over here. I forgot to name it, so I'm going to put this address input. Okay, again, it's important to have name, otherwise you might be confused. So the next text box or text field will be the province. So let's go to call this guy province input. And I'm calling them input because I don't know if I'm going to create, I don't know yet, but it's very important whenever you're naming things, especially elements, just call the name or put the name of it, and then you have to put what kind of element it is. So you're totally sure you are working with the correct element during your coding time, so you don't have to come back to check, well, I forgot what the name was. So you have a rough idea. It's called province, and since it's an input, because it's kind of a standard that I follow all the time, I know all I have to do is like a province input. I'm very sure I will get the exact element I'm looking for. In this case, I'm going to move this tag here. No, here. Yes. Yeah. Now we are getting somewhere here. Okay, so copy and paste, the same procedure. Okay. In this opportunity, I will call this guy city input. Okay. Move this guy here. Yeah, it seems like it's correct. Now let's go to put another text. In this case, will be called postal code. So I'm going to put only postal. You already know it's postal code, right? I don't think it's necessary to call postal code. It's too long. Anyway. So the next thing will be phone number. So I will put phone input. Again, the same idea as in postal code. You don't have to put phone number. It's too long. Okay, I think it's here. It looks good. And finally, we have the email. So I select here and I will put the email input. Awesome. Now, since it seems like I have a lot of room here left, so I don't like to do like that. So what I'm going to do is shrink a little bit so everything shrinks at the same size and it looks appealing, right? Now let's see if it's working perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to run this guy. Okay, to see how it's looking. Perfect. So it seems like I made a mistake over here. You see what I'm talking about? Is sometimes it's kind of hard to get these guys arranged. So you always have to check exactly what you are doing. Okay, now since we don't have the things arranged exactly how we want them, because remember one thing, this specific IDE is here to help you but actually doesn't mean it's going to look exactly what you are going to see, because remember Java, the way Java was designed was for doing everything in the code side. Okay, so in order to get the things done properly, you should be doing it using code. However, not all is lost. Okay, don't worry. The thing is, if we rerun the project, we see the tag's name doesn't correspond in terms of alignment, right? So, but there is a way to do it. Okay, there is a way to do it, of course, and that is using the layout managers as we saw in class. Remember, there are several layout managers like flow layout, border layouts, and grid layouts. But in this case, let's go to put it in practice. So I'm going to create right now these specific panels, these two guys. I'm going to use grid panels. Oh, grid layout, sorry. The grid layout, if you Google it, grid layout Java. Let me check if this one, yeah. So basically what it does is create some kind of grid, okay, where you can put all your information in, you see? All the elements in this case. So basically it's very, very useful and very convenient for us to place everything according to what the format is requiring. Okay, so in this case, I'm going back to the project, and this specific panel you see is tagged over here. That's when you know you are working with a specific element. If I select J level, it will select the J level. That is why this specific explorer is very, very useful. So keep that in mind whenever you are confusing what element you are working with. Just select from here and everything will change accordingly, including the properties, code, and whatever. Right? It's better to do it this way. It's less confusing. So let's go back to our project. Now, the tag panel, I'm going to right click on it and it will set layout. Right now it's in free design, as we saw in the previous class. It's very convenient for using in buttons, but right now, since it seems like it's not very convenient for us because the elements are not aligned accordingly, so I'm going to use, as I told you, the grid layout. Okay, so look at this. Immediately it will change the order of my labels, sorry. So I don't want them in this way, so I have to click on the panel again here in grid layout, and you will see the properties of the grid layout. So the number of columns, I will put only one column, and I will put as many rows that I have element, as the same number of rows as the number of elements I have in this panel. So in this case will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means I will have to put here 7. If I click enter, they change in a specific arrangement, so it looks more appealing, right? Automatically. I don't have to set them. It has like a standard size, which is very convenient for me, and because guess what, every single element has this specific standard size. Okay, now what it will do is actually in this specific layout, what it will do is divide the size of this grid divided by 7, and it will place all the elements in as the same spacing, excuse me, as the same spacing and everything. So it's very convenient whenever you want to create things that are like a vertical line. Use the grid layout. Even for a horizontal, I think grid layout is the best layout to work with. It's more convenient and it's very, very easy to do. Now let's go to do the same thing but with the input panel. So again, it's selecting input panel, right click on it, set layout, and I will use grid layout. Again, look at this thing, right? It doesn't seems to be very appealing to me either. So let's go to put just one column, and the same idea. How many inputs we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just change. Let's go to change this number to 7. Okay, so it seems like it did exactly what we are expecting, but look at this. The specific text fields doesn't look very appealing. They are very, very small. Now, in order to avoid this, just select one of the, let's say the input, which is the first one, and let's go to properties, and in here in columns, which is the property that I have selected over here automatically, you have to put as many columns that you want. Remember, one column is specifically correspond to one single character inside my text area, or text field in this case. So I will put here 50. That means it will allow me to get 50 characters before scrolling the information out. So let's go to click enter, and you see it has the appealing behavior that I'm looking for. Okay, but I think 50 is quite a bit much, so let's go to put half of it. That's perfect. So let's go to run it and see if our changes are taken into consideration, and they did. Right? You see, now everything is appealing, everything is like very aligned, very well aligned. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to close this guy, and let's go to work with the checkbox area. The checkbox area is, or the box panel, I think we call it box panel. I'm going to collapse this guy. The box panel, we are going to do something very similar. So let's go to set layout, grid layout, and let's go to put 7 rows and 1 column. Okay, so let's go to select this guy. Okay, before doing that, let's go to control set this. Okay, so this is my box panel, but before putting something or moving anything, let's go to put the the checkbox first. So let's go to find the checkbox. There it is, and I'm going to put it here. Okay, and in the name, I'm going to put the student console. And don't forget the code. In this case, I'm going to put console box. Okay, console box. Okay. All right. Now let's go to copy this guy and put in it. We're going to arrange things later, don't worry. So in this case, it's volunteer work. I will call it volunt box. Oops. Volunt box. Okay. And in properties, I'm going to show volunteer work. Okay. All right. Now let's go to change it. Let's go to select the panel. Okay. Right click, set layout, and grid layout. As exactly I was expecting, it's doing it like in an horizontal way. So let's go to select the panel, grid layout, and put just 1 column and 7 rows as well. Why 7? Because remember, I want to have the same size of the elements over here. So that means all the panels that are next to each other will have the same size of the cells. sort of speaking. Remember, we are working with imaginary cells, right? So all the cells, if you put like 7, 7, 7 for all the panels in a grid layout, they will have exactly the same height, which is the thing that I'm looking for. Doesn't matter about the height, the width, because the width will be unique for every single panel. But in terms of height, I want them to be aligned. So that is why I'm using 7. And since those guys have the same size, all those panels, they will change, or they have the same arrangement accordingly. So if I want to place it in another, let's check if I can. Well, actually I can't. Yeah, the only thing that I can do is changing the order of them. I cannot put it in whenever I want. However, I think I can do the trick if I put a separator. Let's see. If I put it, yeah, actually, but it's not exactly what I want. I would like to split pane, a panel. Let's see if I can put it in another way. Yeah, because separators, the thing is, separator has this line that I don't like. And let me save this and run it just to see how it looks. You see, it has this line that I don't like. And let me check if I put this vertical. Yeah, but I don't like that to happen. So I don't like this separator thing because it gives me a line, right? Well, let's go to delete that one. And another trick that I figured to do that, to make it spaces, is using another panel inside. So let's go to put a panel over here. Excuse me. And as you may see, what it's doing right now, since we have a grid, is taking the height of the element, of the biggest element, and it's actually adapting itself automatically. But I don't want to look like that because it looks weird, right? Now, let's go to the panel. Remember, everything that is indented inside the any panel, any component, that means it is inside the element. Okay, so that means this panel is inside the box panel. Now let's go to right click on it, and let's go to call it, or let's go to set it as a border layout. And now you see automatically change it to the previous setup that we had, but we have a blank space over here. So if I drag it after this element, look at the yellow square that is next to the panel that we just created, and then release the button, you will see the panel just came as first. You can do it here as well. Okay, you can do it here as well. All you have to do is like drag it to the position that you like. So you will move every single element accordingly. So I will put another space over here. So I'm going to create another panel. Okay, same procedure. Right click on the panel, set layout, border layout, and I will drag for the next element. Okay, now I have a more appealing appearance. So let's see if it works. If it's working, perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for, right? Now the last thing to do is in this row, sort of speaking, is putting the radio buttons. Okay, putting the radio buttons and putting the combo box and also a text area over there. Okay, so let's see about it. Now the first thing, I'm going to create a panel in here. Okay, inside this panel, and remember the first thing we have to do is put in this panel. I'm going to collapse this one because I'm not working with that one, and let's go to put it as a but we have to put it as a grid, but in this case it's quite different. I'm going to use that one as a flow panel because I would like them to be displayed like horizontally. We can do that as a grid. Let's go to do it as a grid, just not make confusion with that. Now, right click on it, but before doing so, remember we have to put the radio buttons first. But before creating the radio buttons, I have to create what? A button group. The button group is exactly the group that will hold all the radio buttons inside the area, so they can actually work synchronized. Okay, so whenever I click one radio button, the other one will be unselected if it was selected previously. So let's go to create the button group here. Okay, so if you don't know when you put the button group, you can look it in your navigator, and you have to make sure it's inside the J panel because that's where I'm going to put all the radio buttons. You don't have to do it that way. You don't have to do it that way. However, just for order things, I'm going to put it inside the panel, this panel that we just created, right? Now, well, actually it's not allowing me because in this IDE has a special section for other components since it's not displayed, but you know it's there. Okay, so I'm going to call this in a code. I will call it cat group because those are the categories, right, for my information. Now, as you may see, cat group is created, it's a button group. Now let's go to put the buttons inside here. So there will be one button. Make sure it's inside the panel. Look at this. If I have it over here, it's actually belonging to the decision panel, but I want them to be inside the J panel 3. So I just drag it inside the J panel 3, and you see how it changed because it's inside the J panel now. So forget about this warning right now. We will deal with that right now. So first I'm going to change the label for that. So I'm going to put computer science. Okay, computer science. Perfect. Now let's go to create another one, selecting the element and pasted it, right? And I forgot, before changing the other element, let's go to the code and let's go to call this guy comp button. Okay, all right, because it's a radio button, so I will call it comp button, and this one should say international business or business only. Okay, now this one I will call it BUS, BUS and business button. Okay, cool. Now we have both of them created over here. Now I have to make them to belong to the same group. So because if I leave it as it is, let's check it. If I select, let's say, computer science and I check business, you see this one didn't uncheck automatically. It should. Now, in order to do that, I have to go back, select the computer science button, a radio button, and in properties, you should have a variable or a property called button group. Just click this arrow and you should be able to see cat group. Remember, we created the cat group first. That is why you have to create the group first in order to have this option available. Otherwise, you will be displaying nothing. Right? So select cat group, hit enter. Now it's saved already, and do the same procedure for business. In this case, I'm going to put the button group, cat group. Awesome. So if you run this, if you check computer science, and then if you check business, automatically changed to the other option the user selected. Okay, so far so good. Now let's go to select the decision panel, right? And make it a grid. So let's go to set layout and grid layout. Now, what I did was putting everything as a grid, but actually I don't like the feeling of this, right? Because the right now, as you may see, is only one component that is holding my decision panel. Inside the, since it's only one element configured for this, it will shrink it or spread it through the whole panel, because I haven't said, well, this is supposed to be something that has only one element, two elements, whatever elements. So remember the trick. We have 7 arrows over here. So let's go to take the decision panel, go to grid layouts, I'm sorry, and put what? 7 arrows. Okay? Now, since remember this is taking this shape because this element, which is the J panel 3, is very big. It has a lot of height, right? So in order to change this, I'm going to right click over here in the J panel and I will set layout as a flow layout. Now we are talking. Now the flow layout is actually showing specifically, but look at the text box. They change the size because this element, the J panel, is a little bit wider or has more height, right? So it has to adapt automatically. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a reason for being a grid. This is like I'm having only one row of grids over here. That is why it looks like that. Okay? Now, the next thing to do is put in the combo box. Okay? So the combo box, let me check. I can find it. Well, in Java, it is called a spinner, right? Well, not quite actually. Let me check. Yeah, I believe that's the one. No, I'm looking for the combo box. Okay, now we have our form getting into shape, but right now, before we continue, I will get the decision panel since it's a grid layout, and I will change a little bit of this configuration. Remember I told you all these grid panels have 7 rows, right? Because we want them, or every single element that is put inside those grid layouts will have the same shape, okay, or the same height. But right now, I'm going to change a little bit this layout before we have it 7, okay? And right now, this layout has 7 rows, right? That is why my text box looks like a little bit with more height that I was expecting. But in order to change that, I will put it instead of 7, I'm going to change this gray layout and put it 2. So basically what I did was this specific layout, the decision panel, which is this one that is selected right now, has only what? 2 rows. You see, it's split into 2 instead of 7 like those ones. So that gives me the opportunity to to put another panel inside like we did for this bottom panel, okay, which is the J panel 3, and all I have to do is add another panel inside here and I can put another element. So inside the J panel 3, I'm going to add the combo box. Now, just drag the combo box, okay? But it seems like it's too small, right? And in the example was covering the whole area like this. So in order to cover it, just select the combo box and go to properties. And inside the properties, there is a specific property that is called preferred size. The preferred size is telling Java what is the size of this element that I will prefer. Okay, very simple. Now I'm going to put it like, let's see, 100. It's getting into shape, but I would like to be a little bit wider, so I will put like a 150, probably a little bit more. 75 probably. Yeah, we got that. Now everything is into shape. You see, it looks very appealing. And then now the last thing we have to do with this panel is adding another panel in this section, because in order to put our text area. What happens if I don't do that? Well, if I don't do that, I will get the same weird behavior with my text fields that I don't like. So let's go to erase this guy over here and put another panel just right here. Okay, and it's actually getting the same effect. So in order to avoid that, all you have to do is what? Go to the J panel, right click, set layout, and click flow layout. Alright? Awesome. Now we have our panel as a flow layout, you see, and every single element came back to the appearance that I want. Now inside this panel, that's where I'm going to put my text area. Okay, now you look like well, it's actually changing, and it is because the text area is too wide and it has too much height as well. So in order to change that, I will put the rows to 3 rows. Because why 3 rows? Because I'm going to display only 3 rows in this specific text area. So if you want to display more, you have to put this number rows inside the properties to have more rows, right? But before we continue, I forgot to put the name in code section for my combo box. So I will call this combo box, I will put the careers, oh no, courses box. Okay, courses box, and here I will call it course selection. Okay, for the text area. So in that way, I'm very sure it's gonna be very easy for me to address. Probably I will come back to the design to make sure what the name is, but it's easier that way to get reference to. So let's go to put now the button over here. Okay, so in order to do that, that's very easy. We have a panel that is called, this panel is called display panel. It doesn't have anything inside. So let's go to drag it, the button, okay, and put it there. You may see, remember the thing is, right now it's like in free flow. This display panel is in free flow, but I would like to have it exactly right in the middle. So in order to do that, just right click on the display panel, set layout, and put the flow layout. Now you have it exactly in the middle. Alright? Very easy, you see? Now in this case, I'm going to change my button. The variable name of this button will be display button. Okay? And in properties, I will call the text value to display. So far so good. So far so good. Everything looks very appealing. We will deal about this size of the frame later. But before that, let's go to play this just to see if it's working. Well, it seems like it looks very good, right? Oh, but look at the computer science. Look at the computer science. It's actually not having an appealing way. So in order to do that, let's go to, or to avoid that, let's go to make a little bit this panel bigger, and which is the decision panel, I believe. Yes, we'll put it a little bit bigger. Okay, and let's go to, there you go. Now we are talking. You see, it looks very, very neat. Okay, don't forget about these items. We will deal with that later, but right now I want them to look very appealing, and all my columns, my items, will be displayed right here, right? The things that I'm being selecting. Okay, so I have my display button, I have my computer science, business science, and I have my combo box working perfectly. All right, now the last thing we have to do is put in another text area in this area. So I'm going to select the, oh, hold on a sec. Yeah, I have it, name it, yeah. And display button is named. And in the result panel, I'm going to add a text area inside the panel. But in this case, I'm going to put the result panel, which is this one. I'm going to put it as a grid layout, probably. Yeah, that's fine. That will work. It will do the trick. So it's only one row because it's only one element and one single column. Let's go to put it 1. It won't change anything, but it is because 0. It will take as a default number 1. So I will change it for number 1 just for, you know me. It's like I don't like to have things in the default setup. So in the code, I will select the text area, and I will change it to results text box. Okay, or text input text. Let's go to call it results text. Awesome. And in property, I don't have anything to change right now. We probably will change the number of rows that is being displayed here, but it's gonna be changed later. So let's go to change the size of my around 400, probably 415. Yeah, and that's it. And just for you to know, I'm having the let me check the J-frame. The J-frame size should be 655 415 if you want to get exactly the same view that I'm getting. Okay, 655 and 415. So if you don't have everything exactly that I'm having right now, it is because probably you don't have the same size, so you can start from it. All right, so let's see how it looks. Awesome. It looks perfect. It looks exactly how I wanted to look. Okay guys, so so far so good. Everything is been working perfectly over here. So right now I'm going to close this window over here, and I will start making the things happen here. So the first thing we are going to do is to clean this guy over here, the courses box. That's very difficult to pronounce. Okay, for that purpose, what I always do is quite advisable for you guys to do it. Always create an initialize method that will be run or will be called as soon the form is initialized. How to do that? Well, first of all, if you have this open like happened to me, you see this init component, you can change anything in here because it's automatically done by the computer. Therefore, there is no purpose for me to have it open, just for reference purposes. But right now, it's kind of out of the scope of this specific explanation, so I will keep it like collapsed, okay? And it's more clean in that way, right? And it's actually this, no, that's okay. I can leave it like this. So you should have something like this. So It is recommendable always to have a method that helps you to initialize everything. Now, since I'm going to create a new method, I will create it after the static void main. It's only for arrangement purposes, okay? You can create it either here, you can create it here, but never like, yeah, you can even create it over here. However, it's up to you guys. I like to do the things like this because it helps me out to know exactly where the code that I'm writing is. Okay? Now, I'm going to create a private void, which is a method that won't return anything, and initialize. Okay? So in here, the objective is to clean this guy up. So the name of this guy is courses box. So I will say courses box dot remove. I believe it is, yes. There is a specific method to remove all the items, and you can see in the description. Removes all items from the item list. So let's go to select that one and save it. Now, how to run this guy? Because if I go to the static void main, and thank you, Amazon, and if you go to the static void main and you try to run it, let's say here, initialize, it will give you an error because it's not a static method. But the problem of giving a static method, if I use the static keyword here, I will get another error because I cannot call non-static variables inside a static method. Alright? So basically what I have to do is to create an instantiation of my class. In this case, the class is a student form. Okay. Now, how to do that? So that's not the proper way to do it. Okay. So the best way to do it is to, let's go to erase this guy over here. And you see these new student forms set visible true? That's exactly what we are going to replace. Now, the first thing to do, remember class number 1 of Java, is create an object of my student form class. So that would be a student form. Let's call it like this just for simplicity. I'm not going to use that variable anymore. Is equal to a student form. Sorry, I forgot to put the new student form. And there you go. You created your object from the student form, which is basically all this class, including the design, including everything. Okay? So I see there is a property or a method that requires a boolean to be set to true in order to set the window visible. So therefore, all I have to do is replicate that specific code, but with my SF object from the student form. So that would be set visible to true. And now I can safely erase this guy over here. Now I can call my initialize method. Without any problem, because whoops, oh, initialize, sorry, initialize, and without any problem, because remember, this guy is not static, this is an object, right? So since it's an object, I can call the method without any problem. So remember, the static method can only be called, or can only be called without the instantiation of an object. But here, since I don't have the static word and I explain why I don't have it, I can create my object over here and then call the method without any problem. Right? Awesome. So let's see if it works. Exactly what we want, right? A clean combo box. Okay, awesome. Now the next step in my initialize is giving the first let's call it setup. Okay, so for that, select computer science, right? And in computer science, in properties, I will have this checkbox checked. Okay, I must have it. So in that way, I am ensuring whenever the form starts, I will have this option selected already. So that is very important for our logic. Otherwise, nothing will make any sense. Okay. All right. So I have it here. I have that done. What else we can do here? So right now we saw in the exercise there are 3 specific courses that I had to be applied, right? Those are Python, C# and Java. So for my course box, right, dot add what? An item. Very simple, right? It's very straightforward. So I will add the item Java, add item, let's say Python, put on Python, and okay, and now courses box dot item C#. Okay, awesome. Now let's see if it works. Awesomely. Okay, I have my 3 options over here, but basically they are not doing anything, but don't worry, we'll get in there. So the basic purpose of this is whenever I click this guy, it should be appearing in this specific text box or text area that I have here. Okay, something like this. Okay, I cannot edit it, that's fine. So whenever I click Java, Java should be displayed over here, and I have a top of 3 subjects to be selected among business and computer science. Okay, all right. Now with that being said, I can close here, so I have my start done. Now in here, now let's go back to the design and select this guy over here. So now it's time to sign an event to this specific guy. And the event that I'm looking for is the item state changed. Basically, this event listens to whenever the user changes their or select a specific item from that list. That's what it does. So let's go to click in the triple dot guy and let's go to add a handler. I will call it, since this is my courses, so I will be courses selection. Okay. Oh no, probably selection change, right? Because it's an action. Courses selection change. Now it's kind of long, but I wouldn't call it like that if I were working in a productive environment, but since we are trying to explain what's going on here, I think it will make more sense to have this long method instead of having a very peculiar and very short method. Okay, remember, always an action. So click OK and then OK. So basically you have it over here. Course selected, selection change, and you see it's automatically getting the event of it. So let's see how this thing works. So in order to understand how this thing works, what I do is always create a print every single time I'm getting an action from here. So that means I will use my console to get whatever, just to see how it works, right? So let's see, I will try to get the item from it. Okay, whenever it's selected, I will be displaying over here in the console what item has been selected. Okay, so let's see. Okay, but something is wrong. You see, this guy is being selected, but I haven't changed anything. So it seems like every single time I started and I add a single item to this combo box, it is selected by default. So we have to deal with this. Otherwise, you will be having populated this text area even before the application starts. So that's not exactly what we want. And let's see how we can work with that. So first of all, let's go to create an if statement over here. Okay, so if event, right? Now this method getStateChange will give me some information regarding to what the item is doing. Okay, so what it does is, let me explain a little bit further. Let's give it a print so you will have an idea. Get getStateChange. Okay, so let's see what is going on. So you see, it's like 2 and 1. Basically, I'm getting selection states of one single index. So whenever the index is selected, it will give the number 2. It's unselected, sorry. And whenever it's selected, is the integer number 1. Okay, so basically what I'm getting is an event, or what I'm getting over here is a result whether if the index is selected or not. So this is very useful because we can get exactly what item has been selected. So let's make it work then. Now if, right, the event.getChange, getChange is equal to what? I can put here number 1, right? But remember what I told you in class. Magical numbers are not acceptable, even though the logical is correct. You always have another solution. You can create a variable over here that you can change later on. But magical numbers like this, like getting from nowhere, is not the best approach to do it. Okay, in any language. So try to avoid magical number as much as you can. Now, but it seems like the item event class has a solution for me. So if I try to use the item event class directly, it seems like I have a several. Remember the name of this? This is a constants. That is why they are in uppercases, which is basically a variable that is public but is final. Okay, it's a variable in final and is public as well. So those is gonna help me hopefully. So let's see if it's there. It is. That's the specific variable I'm looking for, because at the end this specific variable, which is final, that means it's a constant, has the value of number 1. That's all. Okay, but it's not a magical number. So whenever another programmer comes and see this, it will say, oh, he's asking if this event, right, this item event has been selected. That's all. It's very, very straightforward for any kind of programmer. So that's the way you should do it, okay? Now I'm going to put this string here to see how it works. So close the Java first, I mean the form first, and let's go to run it. Now you see it's getting number 1. So it's not very convenient either, because it's like, I don't know what item has been selected, right? So let's stop this. And oh, by the way, you can stop your running project from here as well. You saw the red square that I stopped, that I pushed or clicked to stop it. You don't have to maximize the window and then click the X. You just have to push this stop button over here. All right. Now it's not very convenient, right? The number 1 is like giving me not much information in this time. However, I can use another method over here that is get item, and I believe that one will be more helpful right now. So look at this. Now it's giving me what is being selected. It's not quite the behavior that I'm looking for, because remember, this is happening just after clicking the wrong project. So it's not the expected behavior, right? I want nothing to be displayed until I select something real. So let's see, but let's see if it works. Well, it seems like it's working perfectly. It's getting all the values as I am clicking it. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Perfect. So far so good. Now let's go to deal with the thing that the Java is appearing as soon as I running the application. I don't like that. So for that, before the initialize, I will create a what? An instance variable for the student form. That I recognize as an instance variable because it is private. Okay, that's basic class. That's basic Java class definition. Now I will to put the selectable. I will call it selectable, and I will initialize as false. Why false? Because I don't want, whoops, I forgot to put the class. Sorry. Whoa. If I can type Boolean correctly, okay, now it's working. Now, basically, I am creating this false because I don't want at the beginning to be able to be selectable. I mean, any of the items to be selectable. So right here, right back into my if statement inside the cursor selection change, I will put another condition here, and it has to be and. Why and? Because if I put or, it will run anyway, because this one will be true sooner or later, right? Now, that's not exactly what I want either. So I'm going to put the and operator and choose selectable here. So that means this event has to be selected, and this variable over here, or instance variable, has to be true in order to get the item. So let's see if it runs. Well, at least I got rid of the Java thing appearing at the beginning of the program. So far so good. But now it's not working. So it is because I haven't created any logic to change this guy to true. Okay, so I will do it in initialize. After I insert all the items, I will give the selectable equal to true. And another trick I will do before the selectable to be true, that is important before, I will give the curses box dot set selected index equal to -1. Why -1? Because I don't want the user to have a predefined Java option, because in that way he won't be able to select it because it's already selected, and it won't fire this specific method over here. So the trick to avoid that is just clean the page away and then make the user to select the course. That's the idea of this, right? So let's run this, and you see it's clear. But if you uncollapse this, all my options are displaying. Cool. Now let's see if it works. Now it's displaying exactly the behavior, or it's working exactly the way I'm looking for. You see? All right, so far so good. Now let's do the next step to do is to change the courses, right? Now, in order to do that, I have to go back to my design, and I will work with this computer sign button only. Why? Because it's only 2 buttons over there. I don't have to define an event for every single of them because it's only 2. So if I define with 1, that means if I create an if statement, the else statement will be referring to the second button, which is business. Does it make sense? So because it's only 2, that works because it's only 2. However, if we have more than 2, then you have to create, I'm afraid, you have to create a specific event for every single of the buttons. Okay? Now, select this compare button, and let's go to events. And the one that I'm looking for, guess what, is the same item state changed. Pretty much everything that is clickable, everything that is change an state, that's the method that you should be using. Okay? Now, in here, I will create, just double click in the double 3 dot button. And let's go to add a handler. I will call it comp button selected, because it's an action, right? I selected it. Now hit OK, and I don't know why it's doing this. It's bringing me all the way down. Anyway, okay, so comp button selected should be doing something. Okay, I don't know what yet. No, I'm kidding. Basically, whenever I select business, I have to do a very similar thing like I did over here. I have to remove all the items, I have to populate it, and I have to select the properties, or make the properties selected again. So what to do then? So the first thing, we have to know how this works, how exactly this works. So it's very, very similar to the previous course selection change. So I'm going to print out first to show you how exactly works, and I will retrieve my event. This AVT is coming from here. Okay, you can change this name if you like. I always leave it as it is because I'm used to it. Okay, so it's up to you. Right, so system out print line dot, I will give get state change. Now let's see how it works. So right now it's not working. You see the number 2 immediately displaying, and if I select it, it's number 1 arriving. So it's exactly the same. If I select it, it will give me number 1. If I unselect it, it will give me the number 2. That is why I don't need to get any single logic to the second button, because it's binary. It's only 2 buttons over here, so I can work with just one single button, and then whenever it's 1, work with one logic, and whenever it's 2, which is unselected, that means the other button is selected, right? That is why it's very clever, and it's saving a lot of coding in this way. Now, since we already know what method to work with, so I'm going to, if the event.getState change is equal to what? Is equal to, remember, don't use magical numbers. So in this case will be the item event class as well. So it will be item event dot selected. Okay. Now I will do what? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I always remove all items. Basically copy this. Okay. By the way, this is not the best way to do it. You can, the proper way to do it is create a method that, because you are repeating yourself too much. But since this is only an explanation of how to do that, I prefer you guys to learn how to work with this instead of making more complicated why we create another method and so on and so forth. Okay. So now let's go to select this and apply the format trick. I don't like to work like as if I'm not having any single respect for the order. Anyway, so I'm removing all items, and selectable will be equal to true. But before, I have to. Okay, let's go to see it how it works. So before doing what I was wanted to do. So in here, I'm going to copy this guys as well. Okay. Now, basically, I can do a trick over here. Let's leave it as it is. Okay, I don't want you guys to become more complicated. And okay, so instead of Java, I'm going to give project management. I don't know, international business. And here I will put, I don't know, something like, let me think about it, a stock business. Let's go to color like this. I don't know, I'm just making this up, but that's another point, right? Okay. So I forgot how to write business. Business, yeah, I am correct. Now let me close this. Okay, so far so good. Now let's see if it works. Let's run this. Now nothing is showing, right? It seems like it's okay. Now let's go to business. But look at this. Immediately I got the same error as before. Why? Because I haven't changed this selectable instance variable to false again. So that's what I was about to do like a couple of seconds ago. But I wanted you guys to see why showing me this, since I don't even have anything selected. And it is because whenever I add an item inside an element, it will be selected by definition. Okay. Now, in order to avoid that, all I have to do is put the selectable equal to false and selectable equal to false. Okay. That is why it is important to run and rerun and rerun and rerun and keep adapting yourself to the specific approach. Right now I'm not displaying anything, and in business it's not displaying. Okay, so far so good, but look at this, it's changing accordingly. That's so nice. All right, so let's see if it works. If I select business, let's say project management, it's selecting project management. If I go back to computer and I select C#, it's showing me C#. So far so good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Now, okay, so the next step to do is to, instead of displaying these guys over here, I want to be displayed here. Okay, so that is very easy to do. So instead of printing out in my system, since I already got the logic right, then, well, all I have to do is make the reference to my, or use the reference from my text area. In this case, my text area is called course selection. Now go back and I will put course selection. What? No, that's not correct. I don't know, what did I do? What I did? Course selection, right? Yeah. And I will not set or set text area, set text, because the set text will clean everything up. And I don't want that. Remember, what I want is to be appending all the information all the way. So instead of set texting, there is a method that the text area has, which is the append. And what it does is basically append everything inside the whatever the string is. So it will be the short version for this, equal to whatever is inside plus the new string. All right, but since we have the method that does that, why don't you use it? So it's I will use it as append, and in this case we know we will get whatever we want with this specific instruction that we have here, and all I do is copy and paste it. But it's giving me an error. It's giving me an error, and it's why, let me erase this a bit. It is because if we look at the definition, it's saying it's expecting a what? A string. And this guy over here is not quite a string. Some method will call the toString method that all the objects inside the Java class has, but some method doesn't. So you have to be aware of that, because it's quite the syntax is correct. But the problem is this object over here is not a string yet. So in order to eliminate that, just call the toString method that all the objects inside Java has. Okay? Now let's see if it works. Now if I select Java, there you go, I got my Java. Now Python, but I don't exactly want to be displayed like this. And look at, remember the example also tells you you can only select 3 classes. Okay, let's see if it works with business. Just for, yep, it's working. Now, but you can only select 3 items, and it's showing like one after the other, and I don't want to do that. I would like to be displayed more like a list, right? So let's go back here, and instead of get item, I will use a string, not get item, sorry. Instead of applying it directly, I will use the string.format. This is class number 2, remember? And that is why you have to go before all those steps we learned in order to apply them over here. Otherwise, it will be too difficult. Now, the string format, and in here I will give the what? An string. And after the string I will make a new line. And remember the comma is separating. Remember this function, or this method, sorry, is expecting the formatting here and whatever the elements are in the other side after the comma. Okay, so let's see if it works in this way. So if I select Java, then in business, international business, awesome. Now in C#, Now I'm having another problem now, but let's go to phases one by one. So the first problem I'm going to solve is the fact that I'm selecting more than 3. I'm not allowed to select more than 3. So I'm going to create a counter just before the private void declaration of courses selection change. And I will create a private counter or courses counter. And it will be equal to 0. I always forget this is not JavaScript. Sorry about that. And okay, cool. Now I have the counter equal to 0. Now I will, whenever this is happening, whenever I have something print in my text box or my text area, I will make the counter of courses ++. That means it will add 1 digit or 1 number, 1 single integer to whatever the value is. So if it's 0, therefore I will add 1 to that 0, so it will become 1. And I will make another condition to this if, that will be if the courses counter is greater than 3. What did I tell you about the magical numbers? Don't use them, right? So I'm going to create another private, which is final. Okay, integer that I call max courses equal to 3. And since it's a constant, I have to use it as capital letters. So instead of using 3 number here, I will use max courses. Now it will make more sense. You see? Looks better as well. So I'm going to hit enter here because I don't like to pass the red line. You shouldn't either, because it's a way to tell you that the string is too long. The line syntax is too long. So whenever you are passing the red, I mean, if you are passing by 2 or 3, that's fine. But it's like if you pass more than that, you have to create another line. Okay, that means it's too damnly long. Now, okay. So the course counter, I think that's pretty much it. So let's see if it works. So Java, now it's not displaying. It is because I have a logical problem here. It shouldn't be greater. It should be less than max courses, right? Now, Python, Java, and C#. And after the C#, you see I'm not allowed to select more. So that's exactly what I'm looking for, right? I only allowed to select 3 courses, and after I select it, I'm done. I cannot go back, but that's fine. That's fine. There will be another ways to clean this up, but just for this exercise, it's okay this way. All right. All right. Now we are working. Now we have to deal with the fact that this guy is kind of behaving crazy. Is behaving crazy whenever I selected 3 items, right? So it's like, okay, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to like that. So let's go back to our design, and in here select the text area and go to properties. And in here the only thing that you have to do is just to create it. Oops. No, let's escape it. The second parameter, which is the width, you can change it to 60. And I created a little bit bigger. I know now a scroll is appearing over here, but you have to run it to see if it's appearing in your work as well. And you see it doesn't. So that means this is only to guide you guys, but it's not exactly the same feeling or the same view that you're gonna get. Basically, the first difference I can tell is this item is not the same, right? It looks better. So that is why you have to always run it and run it and run it and run it until you are convinced or satisfied with the result. Okay? So let's see if it's working. Java, Python, and C#. Perfect. I have my 3 Java or my 3 selection. Okay? Even though I erased this one, I'm not allowed to put another one, because remember the max curses. Well, whenever it reaches 3, that's done. This logic won't run anymore because it has reached the maximum point for cost counter. That is why. And for the purpose of this exercise, that's fine. Okay, that's totally fine. So basically, we are almost done. The last step that we have to do is the following. Now, the next step is working with our display button. So let's go back to design and select the display button. And in events, in this opportunity won't be the item state changed. In this case, will be the action performed because it's different event. Now I'm expecting whenever it's clicking to show something, right? Okay, so let's go to double click this guy over here, and I will add the display button clicked. Click OK and hit OK. Now let's go to, there it is, display button click. Let's first to see if it's working. I always do this. It is a very good practice. I know it's kind of annoying, but it makes sure everything is working perfectly before doing any logic. So if I hit display, okay, I got my console hello. Awesome. Now in display, what I'm going to do, is basically display everything that we got inside our form, okay, inside all these parameters, which is basically the longest thing. Okay, so for that I'm going to create variables for every single value. I know you can do it directly to the display. However, I don't like to do it like that because it will make I don't know. It will be very, very hard to. You will get a very long syntax in that way. So let's go to create one by one. So the first item will be the name. So a string. Excuse me. So a string name will be equal to what? Will be equal to name input dot get name? No, get text. That's pretty much what you have to do. So let's see, I'm going to copy this guy over here because I will use it as a very similar thing. And now is the address, right? And the address will be address input get text. Remember what I told you about the name? Since I've been using the same format, now it's easier for me. I don't have to go back and wondering what the name of this guy is over here, because I know I put input keyword for every single of them, starting with the field that I want to post or I want to get, right? So it's easier for me. In this case will be the province, right? Yeah, the province. Province input. And so on and so forth. Now the next thing is city. City input. Oh, sorry. The next one is email, postal code. I believe I named that guy postal input. And no, I didn't. So let me check what the name was. Postal input, yeah, it is correct. Oh, postal input. And the next one is phone number, so that will be phone and phone input. Now the next thing is email. Email and email. Awesome. So far so good. Now the next step is basically working with these guys over here. The first one is console box. So I'm going to use a switch, and I will give the string, no, I will use the switch, okay, and in this case will be the console box console dot is selected. Okay, now for the switch, the first case will be true. Okay, I believe it is like this. Yeah, break. Correct. Now in case it's true, let me check. Type boolean cannot be converted to integer. Type boolean cannot be converted to integer. Let me check one thing. If I put to a string, nope, doesn't like it. Let me check one thing. Let's go to the definition of switch, Java documentation. Now it says case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I cannot have cases. Well, it seems like a switch only works with integers. Switch using strings, Java. That's weird. I don't know why that's exactly what I did, but let me check if there is a specific for booleans. You see, request with booleans. I see. So basically I cannot work directly. It seems like I cannot work with booleans in switch. That never happened to me. I don't remember the last time using the switch statement. Yeah, basically it's 1, 2, 3. Alright, that's fine. I have a workaround with this. So the way to do it, let's go to, instead of switching, let's go to use a regular if. I think is even better. So for this, working with console box. Now, if console box is selected, that means it will return a true, right? So if it's selected, I will call, let me put the string console equal to nothing. and just initialize it. And in here I will call, if it's true, then console, that would be, let me see, student console. Okay, so that's fine. I'm going to console will be equal to a student console equal to yes. Okay, oops, forgot the semicolon. Else the console will be equal to a student console equal to no. All right, so far so good. And do the same thing, but with the, instead of console, I will call it volunteer. So volunteer equal to, let me check the design, volunteer work. Volunteer work and volunteer work. Okay, now we have with all of this, and the next thing I'm going to do is display whatever is inside here. So for that, the only thing that I have to do is string courses. It will be equal to course selection dot get text. There you go. Now I have all the variables I need. All the variables I need to perform accordingly. Okay. Now let's go to append these guys. So now I remember this guy over here is the results text. So that will be result text dot append. Append what? The name. Oh, I'm missing. It's a misspelling over here. Okay, perfect. Now let's see if it works so we can continue. Let's say I have Louis here and I display. Awesome. It's working perfectly, no errors at all. Okay. Let's see what else we can append. So I'm going to copy this because I'm going to need it. I'm going to use it several times. In this case, I will append comma plus a address. And yeah, that's fine. And province and city and postal code and oh yeah, that's a problem here. I actually want to display this as a new line, right? This is the address. The province should be to get there, then the city should be in a new line, with the postal code, and the font should be in a new line, font, okay, and
finally which is a new line as well, the email. Okay, so let's see how it looks. Let's see, it's Lewis Green Ever, Ontario, Toronto, postal code whatever, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 0. Whoops, 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 0, and my email.com. Display. Yeah, looks perfect. Now the last thing to do is to add those guys, the console. So the result text will be in this case I want a new line for this, and I will display the console, and a new line for this as well, and it will display the volunteer. And what else? What am I missing? Oh, the courses, of course. And result text, courses. Okay, now let's see. My name is Lewis, my address Green Ever or Evergreen, Ontario, city Toronto, postal code phone number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 0, and my email.com, and I am a volunteer work and a student council, and I want Python, project management, and international business, and display. Boom. Oh, there is an error over here, you see? So I actually need to add a space in Python, and I will be set. Plus, no, let's do it here because we've been working like this. Okay, and save it. Let's go to stop this and rerun it. Lewis, Evergreen, plus Ontario, city Toronto, postal code, phone number, email, student console on this, Java, Python, and let's say stock business, and display. Well, Evergreen, student console, yes, Java, Python, and stock business. Well, it seems like it's working perfectly. Now, what happened if I display again? Look at what happened. Oh, it's showing again all the information. You shouldn't do that. So, in order to avoid this, whenever this display button, the first thing I have to do is clean everything up. So I'm going to copy this guy over here, and I will say, instead of a pen, I will set text and put it in blank. So whenever, I'm not going to type everything again, I'm just going to test this. If I display, oh, there's an error over here as well. I'm working with the console box only. So in this case, there will be volunteer. Let me check how the name of this guy was. Volunt box. That's the name we gave him. Box. So if it's selected, if not, so that will be, that's another error over here. If I can, yeah, there you go. Now let's stop this and run it. I'm not going to type everything again, just so it seems like it's working perfectly here. And yeah, awesome. Now if I select a student council and volunteer check, you see they change it dynamically. So basically that's what it is. I'm going to select business and international business and C# display. Now I'm filling everything up. It's nice. Okay, so basically that's what it is, guys. I think that's pretty much it with the application. It's working perfectly, and yeah, pretty much. So what you have to do, let me show you what you have to do, just in case you missed this. Just save everything. Is saved already. So go back to wherever your student form is and insert student form. All you have to do is zip those two guys, okay, and color with your ID, and that's the file that you have to deliver. Okay, don't deliver the whole folder because it's harder for me to then display the information. Okay, just display whatever is inside the source, inside the folder of the package. So that's all I need. Okay, that's all I need. Okay, guys, that's pretty much. I hope you like it, and I hope you can do it without any problem. Anyway, if you have any problem, just let me know. Sending me an email. And okay, cheers. Bye bye.